Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
This is Stress-Free Living. Welcome, and thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Ray Samich, and I would first like to introduce all of you to my longtime radio co-host, colleague, and my dear spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
I am always better when I have the opportunity of speaking with you and sharing my thoughts and hearing your wonderful wisdom, and also interacting with our wonderful guests that we have as part of our Zoom audience. And we'll tell you a little bit more about how you can be a part of that a little later in the program. Ratanjit, I'd like to talk today about, over 30 years of doing the show, we've covered probably every topic at least once, if not five times. But forgiveness is one that's near and dear to me. And I always have to remind myself to forgive others and forgive myself. But I see so many people that have trouble with coping with forgiveness. And I think we think of it as one word and we know it's important. But I think if we really talk about it a while, we realize how extremely important it is to our mental health. So I'd like to talk with you about a better understanding of forgiveness. And where I'm coming from with that is not only forgiving others, forgiving those who have harmed us, but also forgiving ourselves. And a third part of it is also having the courage to say I'm sorry to others when we need to be forgiven. So I'm not sure we can knock all this off in one show, but I want to give it a good try. What are your opening thoughts on understanding forgiveness?
Basically, we all uh, have bath every day. We clean ourselves. We clean around ourselves. So one of the most important thing to clean our mind is self-cleaning. Requires removing this poison within us of which is holding us back, generating anger and poison in our system, is some holding somebody is responsible. Somebody has done wrong for us. So true forgiveness cleans that that thought process. So
Mhm.
suddenly we become free of that chain which is holding us back and taking our time and generating poison and anger in us. So that is the fundamental part of uh, forgiveness. What do you think?
To that point, you're right on. I did a little bit of research. I don't normally do research for a show, but this one intrigued me, and I did some checking. And I've always thought of forgiveness as being an emotional thing. I have an emotion about forgiving others and being forgiven, or I thought of it even at a deeper level of spirituality. It's like I have a spiritual obligation to forgive my brother who made a mistake. Okay, or that, or I hope that they accept my my humanity, my capability of making mistakes, and they'll forgive me. I didn't really think of it as a mental health issue. And yet, the more that I did research on it, it went back to that point, and that it's actually damaging to our mental health. And you summed it up, with the bath and the cleansing. I don't think we realize that when we fail to forgive, it is really, or when we need to be forgiven, and go through the actions to have that happen, it really is damaging to our entire mental health. It holds us back on a major basis in terms of having a clear mind to be able to live our lives without that guilt or without that frustration, aggravation, anger, whatever those emotions are. So this can be a very serious topic for people if they are not coping with this well.
The other side of this thing is, why don't we clean ourselves from this poison?
Yeah,
It is
I
it is
mean, exactly.
because it is an explanation to ourselves for our own failure, because this person has done this to me, that is why I'm failing. So holding that egoic explanation that I was done wrong, that is why I'm not successful, that is why I'm not good enough. It could be, we could be holding our parents responsible, we could be holding our society responsible, we could be holding our environment responsible, our friends, our school, or so many things which we hold uh, basically responsible for, or not getting out of the rut. And our failure or drawbacks are explained by these conditions, and we don't forgive them. We hold them responsible for that, right?
You're right again, and it's almost like if I forgive them, I no longer have that excuse. Right?
Yes.
I now, okay, that's over, put it into a box and close it up and now move on from here. But they don't want to move on from here. They always want to have that crutch to be able to blame others. And in some of the research that I did, one of the biggest groups of people that are blamed by society are the parents. There's so many people that will not let go of situations that did happen or they thought should have happened relative to their parents, and then they live their whole life in that shadow of saying it's not my fault. It's if I would have been raised differently, if I would have had more, or if I would have had less, or if I would have been told I was loved, or if I would have been told I was better than, they always criticize me, whatever the stories are.
You
And I
know,
agree with you. It's like that's the ironic part, brother, is that we think all of this is against other people. We think we're hurting others by not forgiving them. But the real person that's being hurt is us. I mean, we're the
yes.
ones being held back with this.
There is another side of it. When we are explaining how I was uh, shortchanged by somebody, or how I was abused, people give that person sympathy. So temporarily, I have a uh, I have gained brownie points. I'm feeling better because somebody is sympathetic to me. So gaining
True.
somebody's sympathy is also a reason that I keep on repeating that story, whatever the story is, whether it is against society, or or school, or parents, or brother, or whatever it is. So
Right.
that is a talking point for me, and continuously gaining the sympathy, right?
So what's the core of why do we is that our ego that wants that sympathy? Is that's what craves attention? I mean, is
Yeah.
sympathy just a motion to try to say poor me and everybody should care about me because I went through something tough?
Your ego requires for you to feel better. There are there are many ways to feel better. Either condemning somebody makes you feel better. So you are creating somebody, lowering that person and making you higher. That is your ego. So ego makes you constantly hold on to these things which make you feel better. Definitely it is ego. So e- go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so is that the reason that we can't sometimes can't forgive other people because we almost enjoy the fact that they've hurt us, that they've done something to us, whether they have or haven't is even irrelevant. But our perception that we have been harmed actually boosts our ego because now we feel we're better than the person who harmed us. I mean, does it all
No,
come down to ego?
if you don't have other things to boost your ego, you don't have worldly success, worldly money, or trophies, or medal, which you can talk about, and that thing to gaining sympathy is less important to us. Basically, you have found different foods for ego: your success, your trophies, your medal, or whatever it is. If you cannot find that, you hang on to those things. And still, there is a pleasure of different kind experienced by your ego when you gain sympathy from people.
Right. Because even successful people I know, and I'm fortunate that I've been through a career that I've known a lot of people that are very powerful or wealthy or successful, whatever standards you use for that. But many of them also still are unable to forgive. They that's not a replacement for the fact that they do have medals and trophies and wealth and things, but they still have difficulty forgiving. I think it serves a different part of our ego when we can say that somebody harmed me and therefore I'm and I'm making this very simple, but I'm better than the person that harmed me. Okay, they did something wrong to me, and that puts me in a position where that makes me better than them. And
Yeah.
I the forgiveness is such a deep topic, and I don't want to oversimplify it because if I've genuinely felt harmed, if I really feel like somebody did something, said something to me that just destroyed me, or made an action that prevented me from having an opportunity that was very important to me. If something like that at that level happened, it is gut wrenching. I mean, many of these people do have a situation where it hurts. And so I don't, you know, it's hard just to say that that was my ego that will not allow me to forgive the person for harming them. I have to think that ego is a part of it, but is it all of it? I mean, isn't there a true harm that has been done to me at some level that I have to work to overcome?
You know, when you are describing somebody gaining sympathy and because of your ego, so I was harmed, I was this, and many of these people simultaneously use the word, but I have forgiven them.
Yeah,
They are boasting
yeah,
their ego that I am greater than them because I forgave them.
right,
But they
right.
basically do not understand the concept of forgiveness. Basically, there is two ways to uh, clean this poison in us, which is somebody holding somebody is responsible. One is the pseudo cleanliness, which really doesn't clean you, but somehow or other you claim that you have cleaned yourself. That is ego driven. By boasting people constantly, although you're describing the whole story, I was this and that and this, but I have forgiven them. I have moved on. you have really not moved on because you remember that.
Right. You're telling the
There is,
story.
yeah, there is
Yeah.
another way to face, another way to cure your forgiveness is unveiling the truth. So when you find out why that person did what to you, which you hold that responsible, there's two truths which come to your notice. One, that person's condition. That person may be mentally sick, which happened to abuse you, or their circumstances were such that what they did to you, which you consider an abuse or shortcoming, was really not shortcoming. It was the consequence of the circumstances that person was. That is the truth. And the third truth is your if somebody has given you, it is past holding on to the history. Your truth is all in the present. There is no forgiveness in the present because present you don't remember the past. You are operating in the present. So forgiveness basically doesn't arise until you go back to the past.
Mm.
So that is your truth. So now there are, to understand the truth, there are two kinds of truth, which we will talk later on. But if what I said, if you have any comments on that?
Well, I mean, all three of those things are, I totally agree with you, but the third one, no, there's no forgiveness in the present. I mean, that is absolutely one of the most powerful things I've ever heard. Um, if you live in the moment, then in that moment, nobody's hurt you. There's no thoughts of what has happened to you in the past, whether it is the daddy syndrome or whether it's the terrible school that you went to, or the way you grew up, or whatever it is. None of that exists in the
In the
moment.
present. Yeah.
Okay. And so and that's the way we're supposed to live. We are not supposed to live worrying about the future or regretting the past. We're just supposed to live in the here and now. And so it is, refreshing and freeing that we don't even need, if we live there, to even worry about this potentially, devastating situation of having to forgive others, or having to be or forgive ourselves, or go through that whole emotional, spiritual, mental health concern, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't exist if I live in the present. That's really a very powerful thought. I don't know how many of us can elevate our life to that, because maybe the bigger topic today, since you've mentioned that point, is just how we really can live in the present and avoid that thing that is holding so many people back. I mean, the reason I wanted to talk about forgiveness is just because in my own life, and in talking with so many of the people, working with so many people, it's needed so badly. There's so many people that do feel that they need to be forgiven, and or that they need to forgive others, and they can't do it. And so it is so amazing to think that if we just lived in the moment, none of those people would have a problem anymore. None of those people would have to be, torn down and potentially devastated for the rest of their life with that situation that they don't know how to handle. I mean,
You
I
know,
I love that more than anything.
the past is only history, and you can analyze it to the nth degree, but you will never really comprehend the truth. It's like layers after layers you unveil. This person who treated you badly could be because of circumstances, because he had bad day or he was not mentally right or something have influenced him. All those not available to you. They are not available to you. And basically, no matter how smart you are, you cannot really completely unveil that situation which you are feeling sorry for yourself because somebody abused you, somebody did wrong to you. So that is another fact. So all that need to be, as always, you have to gather what you have today, and all your achievements, all your good things happen when you operate in the present.
So when we come back, need to take a short break. When we come back, Ratanjit, I want to, if there's so many reasons for us to live in the present and or in this conversation, not dwell on forgiveness and our need to forgive and our need to be forgiven. If there's so many reasons that we can avoid that from our life, why do we hold on to it? That's what I want to talk. Why do we prefer to carry that with us and to have those syndromes our whole life where we come back and blame him or her or them or this or that? You know, we realize we're better off without doing that. So why do we still hold on to those things? That's what we're going to talk about when we come back. Stress-free living helps us, we think, to eliminate some of the stress that's in our daily lives, and the situations surrounding forgiveness really do cause great stress in our life. We're trying to help all of us with that. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, everybody, we've got 90 seconds. Please open your mic if you'd like to share a thought, question that you want me to ask Ratanjit. Hi, we're seeing you flipped for some reason or other. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, so
Now, go ahead, Doctor.
yeah, so I think what Ratanji just said, that if you live in the moment, and I mean, you're so empowered actually, and when you are empowered yourself, you do not wish to be in the victim mode, because as he said, that there are people who, or there are people who like to, who lead their whole lives blaming and putting the blame on others for things that they could not do. So I think it's a very weak state of mind. And of course we know so many people who find their comfort zones in those, in that victim state. But then I think here, if we can at that moment just have empathy for the person who's doing wrong, and just move on and be in the moment. So here I think we can draw a lot of inspiration from oneness, where at the end of the day you understand that some things, life is not always fair, and then you just move on with all that you have to do and work on your own strengths. Basically, this is what I feel.
Excellent.
Thank you. You've given us several different branches we're going to follow. Thank you. Anybody else? We have a few seconds left. Anyone else have a quick thought? Okay. Couple of key words here that you brought up. I like the empathy
And I've often seen that even at work, there are people who are, maybe among my colleagues and the staff that we have. I mean, there are people who have that mindset where, sorry,
We are
sorry.
back on Stress Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us. During our breaks, we have the opportunity of speaking with some of our guests on our Zoom call. And if you would like to participate, let me just tell you briefly, our YouTube radio channel is called Stress Free Living Radio. There's 140 some shows that are out there that we have done live with this. And included on those shows actually are even our during the break conversations and our post-show conversations. part of that channel also gives you our link. So if you just find the link that's associated there with our show, you can tune in with us on our Zoom show each and every week if you'd like to be part of the behind the scenes action. Ratanjit, a lot of great thoughts we just got from some of our guests on that. But I want to go back to what I said first, and then want to follow up with some of the things she has and some of the things you have um, that you want to cover today. If we know that forgiveness hurts us, and I should say that better. If we know that because we can't forgive somebody, it hurts us, or if we know that because we don't have the fortitude to say I'm sorry to somebody, that hurts us because these thoughts are grinding in our mind and in our heart and they're holding us back. Why do we choose not to release those? Why do we choose, knowing that they're harmful to our mental health, they're harmful to our ability to live in the present, but we still choose to not address those situations? Does it come down to our ego again, our out of control ego, or are there other factors?
Once I had a guest from a remote area of India, and I took that person shopping, and there were some parking spaces which are close to the store, which were for handicaps.
Mm-hmm.
So this person asked, why can't we park here? Because I said, because they are for handicap. So um, he said, how do they know that they're handicapped? So I said, there is a sign which you hang in your car, which otherwise they will fine you. So where do you get that sign? So he said that if we can get that sign, you have a closer parking place,
Right,
right?
right,
So
yes.
similarly, when you have a story to tell about your past, which which gives you sympathy, you have the past of handicap. So suddenly, there are people who hang on to that because that's all they have. Because once you move them from that place, you need some help. When you move them from that place to a place where they have seen some achievements, they can be, they can live in present, and they can accomplish something which is worthwhile, and they can tell those stories better than those abuse stories. They will basically be part, never forgive and talk about forgiveness. Now, another fact is we are either our ego or our true self. So we cannot simultaneously in both places. It's basically darkness or light. Once you are in the real self, your ego disappears. Once you are the ego, you cannot comprehend your real self. You can talk about it, you can do all that, but you cannot live in the real self. Now, the ego comes from living in the human body mode. You think you are this human body. It is in the human body mode, your fear, your insecurity, your greed, your power, hungriness, and your ego, all that are present. It's not that this is an illusion that I am this. You always are hungry for recognition. And you can never, go back to the past because that's where this falseness story exists, and you can elevate your stories when you are telling others, and you can get more sympathy. That is the uh, elevation you constantly seek. You cannot be present when you are in the ego mode. You can only be present when you are in the real mode. The real self is that power which enlivens you, a single power which enlivens all living beings. It's like the example I give of the light bulb. When you switch on and the light comes in the bulb, it is connected to the powerhouse, has a live wire connection, and constant electric flows into the bulb. Similarly, when you are alive, constantly your universal energy, empowering energy, enlivening energy enters you and comes out. It's a constant source, constant connection to that power. And that is, once you realize that's what you are, you always feel grateful for that power, and you have inner desire to serve that power. And you cannot serve that power reaching for the power, but you serve the power which is present in others. You basically serve everyone who comes in contact with you, whether it's the human being or the environment. So your mind, which is a creative instrument given to you, is part in constantly asking this question: how do I make a difference under this situation? You have left no room to go back in the past. You are constantly engaged, your mind, your your knowledge, your capabilities, your skill, into asking how can I add highest value in this situation to serve that universal power present near me or within me. So that is the only place where the question of forgiveness does not exist, right?
You've presented another example of the difference between living in our human mode and living in the oneness mode. And you do this in every show, of course, but in this one, it seems to be even a little bit more demonstrable that we can really understand the distinction. In our human body mode, we almost have to have that ego. It's in my mind, it's almost like part of our protection device. It's the way that we feel empowered in the human mode by always trying to have, the survival idea of survival of life also is like the survival of my mind, of my mental power, of my ego, feeding my ego by putting other people down, by trying to make myself feel better than them. You gave the example, you says even when we forgive, it's based on our ego because now we feel better about ourselves that we were able to show forgiveness. And it wasn't often a true act of kindness and empathy and love. It was in itself also building our ego because now we are willing to forgive somebody who harmed me. Look at me, I'm special. You have that dichotomy of almost always living with an ego versus the total absence of ego because we realize that we're nothing without that power coming into us. We're zero. We have nothing if it weren't for that gift coming into us. And it's like, where do we want to be? I mean, if we're given that choice, if it is that crystal clear, do we want to be in our human mode where we will live in ego all the time and have that the only thing that empowers us is our ego? And basically what that means is that we always have to find other people to put down so that we feel better about us? Or do we want to be on a total different platform that realizes that we have universal power that comes to us as a part of, our true self, our true identity? I think maybe forgiveness has, in some ways, in my mind, has caused that distinction, that difference, to realize just how enormous a gap that is between the two ways that we can choose to understand how we live. Is that making
Absolutely.
sense?
And, in the world we live in, most of us live in the human body mode.
Yeah.
And that is why the society, we are constantly living one-upmanship. I'm better than you in this respect. Okay, you are better, but I'm better than you in this respect. And constantly we are comparing, we are competing, we are controlling, we have laws, we punish. All that happens in the human body mode. In the oneness mode, your only focus is to serve the divinity. Your only focus is to add value. And you add, whenever you add value, you want to make it better because you are serving the highest power on earth. You cannot be mediocre. So you are constantly have this thought you have not done enough. You're constantly bettering yourself. You become a better student. You are constantly learning. You are enhancing your skills of adding higher value. Your whole focus remains on that. And the trophies and medals which you get by doing this service is irrelevant to you because your focus is not on medal and trophies. They are only feeding your ego, which you do not have in the case you operate in the oneness mode. So all our scriptures, all our religions are focusing us into the oneness mode. But because we are in the ego mode, we have adulterated all our scriptures, all our religions, and made them into I'm better because I'm Muslim or Christian or Hindu or Sikh. So this is all comes from ego. So even when you are in the ego mode, the religions, the scriptures which tells you to go into oneness mode becomes a trophy. You convert that into ego mode. So no solution can ever be found for the humanity or the society when you are operating in the human body mode. The solution to all our problem lies to to migrate from this human body mode into the oneness mode, right?
You know, Ratanjit, we did a show recently on defining success. And I bring that up because it seems now in my brain that even a lot of the ways we define success are based on our ego. I mean, even the warm and fuzzy ones, like I have a beautiful family and I have a lot of friends and I have relationships that have lasted 50 years. Even those really at their core have a ring of ego to them. Okay, it's like um, I'm such a good person that I have friends for 50 years. Well, that's catering to my ego again. Okay. And yet that's, or I own 25 cars and I live in a 50,000 square foot home. Those levels of success have the ego ring to them. It's
Basically, you cannot, in the ego mode, you have friends. In the oneness mode, I have to be friends. I don't have friends. Its emphasis comes on me to be friend.
I am a friend, not I have a
I,
friend.
it's impossible to have friends, but you can only be a friend. That is in the oneness mode. And in
Right,
the ego mode, I have friends.
right,
So
right,
that is the difference.
right. And so, this is becoming more and more clear to me as we're talking of how this distinction is evidenced so much when you talk about ego and you talk about forgiveness, which is such a dramatic issue for so many people their entire lives to be able to forgive. So I don't know. When we come back, I want to get into a few other topics that were mentioned here by some of our guests, and I'm sure we'll have some more conversations with them. Go ahead.
One more
Real quick
comment
thought.
before I
Yeah.
forget. In the ego mode, you do prayers. In the oneness mode, your serving becomes prayer. Take a break.
Wow. I love it. I know we've said this before. You pray in a human mode, in the oneness mode, your life is a prayer,
Yeah.
right? I love it. All right. This is Stress Free Living. We'll be back in just a moment. Please stay with us. We've got much more to share with you. All right, 90 seconds. Somebody want to open up your mic and give us a thought? Again, we'll be back in about 10 minutes and talk freely with you.
Wow.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Greetings. Hi, Baba
Hey.
Ratanjit and Ray. You're always wonderful as well. It's such a powerful, a lot of information, very impactful, and so much to take in and to speak on. But one of the things that struck me just before you left is when he was talking about in the oneness mode, in the ego mode, you have friends, and in the oneness mode, you are a friend, and that was something that really hit me because very recently. I realized that I was like, wow, it seems like I'm a better friend to people than they are to me, maybe a year ago or so. And then I realized, oh, but that's who you are. That's who you are. And I get it when he says the oneness mode. And it wasn't that these people weren't trying or being friends, but in the way that I might have felt that they should have been, they couldn't provide that. But it's that separation between the person who's living in the oneness mode and the person who's living in the ego mode. And it's not so much as versus, it's just a level of evolvement or understanding that you've reached. And at that point, you are not a person that seemed to have a lot of friends. And I just think that you're kind of on a slightly different vibrational thing, but it's not so much as better or you're higher than them, you're just somewhere different. And it was just really interesting that kind of struck me.
And also in the ego mode, only you have strangers. In the oneness mode, you have no strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Anybody else with a quick thought? Thank you, Kai. Anybody else with quick before we come back? All right. Ratanjit, one of the things that, that's right, we're coming back. This is Stress Free Living. Ray Samich and Ratanjit Sandhi with you. Thank you so much for being a part of our program today. And we have just a few more minutes, Ratanjit. There's so many things that are in my head that I would love to get out. One of the thoughts earlier that was expressed was the word empathy, and we've done shows on empathy, but it seems that that's almost a trick for some people to identify with where other people are at, put myself in your shoes so that I can gain control of the situation. If I know what you're thinking, if I put myself truly in your position and know where you're at mentally and physically, emotionally, now I'm in a position where I can dominate the relationship because now I have the upper hand and I can sell you something, whether it's my ideas, whether it's my product or service or whatever it is, using empathy. It's trivializing such a beautiful concept, because empathy, if it's done right, is really oneness, right? It's really realizing that we're all the same, and it's realizing that there is no upper hand. There is only adding value to your life. So what are your thoughts on that? Is empathy almost like a peek behind the curtain of what oneness should be like if we use it right?
Empathy is, when you gain empathy, you feel others' pain and others' suffering, and so on and so forth. In the ego mode, we are realizing and suffering, and because I feel better, I feel your pains, but you don't. You only say that. And it's only in the oneness mode you become the pain other is feeling.
Right.
So true empathy does not exist in the ego mode. It's a manipulation of ego, which we
Yeah.
call empathy. Bill Clinton, one of the common phrase he used, I feel your pain, I feel your suffering, but he never did.
Right. Right. And that's why you use the word manipulative. And I'm not picking on President Clinton with this, but we all do that, really. We People that have the empathy gift of doing that in many cases are the most manipulative in terms of what their game plan is once they have that position. But it at the same
In our
time,
civilization, we uh, in the ego mode, the word thank you means a lot.
yeah,
In the oneness mode, is the act which has to spell thank you, not the word. In the ego mode, the word, though you use thank you, I am say thank you. You teach the little kid, he has given you this present, say thank you. But in the oneness mode, you express your through the body language the gratefulness which you feel rather than the words. Go ahead.
I don't disagree with you, but I mean, obviously teaching children to say thank you is meant to be, a gracious act and a loving act. It's meant to be something that shows appreciation and respect and all those kind of things. I mean, I don't know. I guess what you're saying is we should be teaching kids oneness instead of saying thank you. Maybe that's what,
The
maybe that's the bottom line here.
gratefulness is different than thank you.
Yeah.
The expression of in the civilized society, the expression of gratefulness is thank you. But really, thanks comes from your core, and you always thank the divinity present in you. When your ego body mode thanks, it thanks the body mode,
Okay.
others body mode. When
Okay, I
you
think we've just made a decision here with a couple minutes left to move that to change that conversation to another show. Let's go back to understanding forgiveness in the closing seconds, because that's you
Okay.
just blown my mind here with talking about thank you. Um, understanding understanding forgiveness. Can we forgive if we are in the human mode? Is pure true forgiveness even possible if we are just living in the human mode, which most of us are? Is that ever capable of being accomplished, or do we have to, in order to have true forgiveness, do we need to move over to the divine mode?
In basic difference is in the human body mode, there's right or wrong. In the oneness mode, everything happens basically creating a condition where we can add value, we can serve it, we can serve. There's nothing right or wrong in the oneness mode. Basically, you accept with gratefulness every situation and add value. If somebody is hurt in the ego mode, if the car accident happens, in the ego mode, you sue the car owner, you arrest a person, and all those things happen. In the oneness mode, you serve the injured person. Basically, you add value to the situation rather than uh, focusing your energies and creativity in blaming. And then proceed further to analyze when you can you stop this from happening. That is also another part of oneness, rather than punishing somebody, because we are all power of the universe, right?
So you said something, really empowering earlier when you said if you live in the present, you don't need to have forgiveness. And that's probably still my biggest takeaway today, because the past doesn't matter if you're living in the moment.
Yes.
And the future relationships and worrying about how that's going to affect me because of what he did to me 5 years ago is irrelevant if I'm not worrying about the future. I'm just living in the moment. So that's
No,
beautiful. But
what do you do in the present? That is important. By living in the present, the only reason for your living is to serve the universal power which enlivens us all. Basically, to add the highest value under every circumstance. Basically, to serve, not to judge. So that is the purpose of our life.
and
There is no
and
room
that's
for forgiveness or no room for remorse.
that's yes, thank you for the elaboration on it, because living with that intent, then, with just an intent of adding value, you no longer judge things relative to forgiveness. You no longer have that consideration, because you're just living with the intent of always adding value, even if you've been harmed, or even if you've made a mistake and you've harmed somebody. Now, in the moment again, I'm here to add value. It's not to judge what had to be done or should have been done or what needs to be done. It's just adding value in the moment.
Because
Now,
that is
adding,
past, you cannot correct it. You
right?
can punish somebody. By punishing, you cannot correct it.
No.
That is a
And and as we talked, if you're punishing somebody, you're punishing yourself too
yes.
in that process. Okay, so it doesn't add any value at all to the situation to get hung up on it. Wow. We have to go, Ratanjit. We'll let that be our last words for today, but I thank you so much for enlightening my mind in a whole different direction on forgiveness and how that ties to the oneness platform of living our lives. Thank you for all of our wonderful Zoom guests, and for you, however you may be watching or listening. We really hope that we have added value to your life. Remember, we're all playing the same game. Thank you so much, Ratanjit. Thank you for being with us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, we are clear.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
Jogesh with us. Hi, Jogesh. How are you?
Oh,
Yes,
he has to unmute.
good evening, rather good morning for US citizens. I'm joining this forum after a long time, and I've been traveling and busy in some civil construction work. Anyway,
Oh,
besides that, I used to get the invite, but somehow this is a Saturday evenings. So in India, Saturday evenings get cluttered up, doing shopping or visiting friends and like that. Anyway, it's very encouraging to hear um, Mr. Ratanjit's talk today again on forgiveness and explaining how it gets tied to oneness. I have one question. I recently went to my old boys school meet where we were all relishing our early days, and I've discovered that I had lived more than 50 years passing out from my school time. And I found one thing common there, that all the old boys, even seniors and juniors, were trying to relive past. I don't know what is that it. We try to relive our past. Of course, we remember the good points and probably forgive and forget the old bad memories in the school game. So I wonder, living in the past is also relishing the moments that you have passed through in the good times. Uh, is it okay to relive the past when you have good memories, or forget it and just look forward to new memories? That was my query. That forgiveness comes only when I think you have done something wrong to someone else. But there is another part that you relived your good memories of the past as well, and encourage and relive your relationship with your friends.
So when
Is
you
that
visit the old memories,
falling in place here, or something more is to be?
when you live the past memories, that is a comfort zone for your ego.
Yes,
And living in present is a challenge. So you generally in the human body mode, you are looking for comfort as much as you want. Your human body mode is part in the laziness, and whereas living in the present requires challenge. We are confronted with a new problem which you have to find a way to add the highest value. You have to utilize all the wisdom, all the education, all the experience, all the talent which you possess. So it is challenging and it is difficult to comprehend because we get habituated in living in comfort. And the
right,
easiest
right,
way
right.
to live
That's there. Yes,
in the comfort is living in the past, because there you don't have to do anything. You basically feed each other's ego. Wow, this was great. I did this and you did this and this. And uh, maybe uh, out of what you are telling, 20%, more than 20%, 30%, 40% are lies, which are not true.
yes. Some, yeah.
So
Sometimes they
basically,
are
how
elaborated
big?
goodwill points to make others
Yeah.
happy.
How big was
yeah.
that fish
That's
that we
all.
caught? Right. How big was that fish that we caught back in high school? Right. Was it
Yes,
3 feet or
yeah.
3 inches?
And
I
one thing
That's
more
an
in
interesting.
forgiveness, in the forgiveness mode, it doesn't come very easy also. We carry our past with us as a burden. We did something wrong
Because that's your
with our
comfort zone,
friends or
because you
relatives
don't want
even.
to give your past away, because that gives you comfort, because you feel superior. Somebody has done the bad to me. How can I forget? I feel a victim. And as a victim, I get sympathy. And the moment you forget means you erase that opportunity to gain sympathy is gone.
Right, very right. Yeah, that's a hidden part of the ego, I guess.
Yeah.
Very right.
Jogesh, thank you for joining us again. Good to see you.
Good.
Anyone else
Yeah,
have
same here.
anyone else have a thought that they'd like to share with us?
Dr. Mehta has been quiet.
No,
We need to be graded.
actually, no. So I actually, Ratanjit, you basically started saying something that will help most of the mortals who are living in a body mode. You said, let's analyze the situation, but you could not expand it because of the shorter time. I think for some of us who often, because of whatever reason, if something is done wrong to you, you can't even get to immediately at the oneness mode. You have to take the analysis more objectively. The moment you think some person has done wrong to you and you want to give or you want to forgive him or her, the first thing is analyze the situation objectively. See whether in this situation, what you would have done or what he or she did is okay or not. This is just to help the process of forgiveness. And the second thing is you have to, I think Kai emphasized the need for empathy. You need to emphasize, or you need to, empathize and see, if I were in that situation, would I have done the same thing? And that will help you further. And ultimately, you have to have commitment to forgive. If you don't make a commitment to forgive, like Ratanjit ji is saying, it's a pseudo forgiveness. You keep on remembering, you keep on repeating to gain sympathy from others. But at that point, anytime you feel the need or urge to go back, like he said, don't go in the past. But if you do, make a commitment, I'm not going to go in the past. I'm going to live in the present moment and forget about it. Sympathy from others is not going to achieve anything. If something I need to improve in myself, blaming my past, again, is not going to do anything. I have to do the commitment I have to do to improve my own failures. And ultimately, like you said, Ratanjit, you have to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't forgive yourself,
yeah,
whatever you did or you want to do it, it just keeps on going, lingering on, like Mr. Soni is saying. You do go in the past. Yes, you do. Sometimes you gain experiences from your past and you improve yourself and you get better. But if you don't want to get better for whatever reason, that's a different story. But if you want to improve yourself, you have to go in your past and look at it. Whatever else you did it, you would not either repeat it or you will do it better. So I'm kind of summarizing your thoughts for more mortals like who live in a human mode all the time. Is that, Ray, is that what, did I go off track here?
No, you're right on track. And we didn't cover much about forgiving ourselves. That was on my list, but like you said, we kind of ran out of time today.
Yeah, I think the time
because
was not adequate. And Ratanjit, he's giving so many points that the 1 hour time wasn't adequate. He said it that we'll analyze the situation, but he couldn't expand on it because
you said something that is, you learn from your past. The only way you learn from your past is to make your past your present.
Right.
So you always live in the present.
That is true.
And another thing is that you are a doctor. Supposing you are visiting the hospital patients. So one room you enter, this patient is mentally sick and he's under drugs and all that. So suddenly you enter, this patient threw something at you, and suddenly you were injured. Your left shoulder was broken. So now the question to forgive that patient doesn't arise. You are a doctor, you are realizing that patient is basically mentally sick. He doesn't know what he's doing. So you will never hold a grudge against him. You will construct a procedure. One thing that he doesn't do that often. Second is understand the treatment he's going through. Can he be improved? Can he be changed? So, whenever we have this something done wrong to us, we never really go into the situation understanding why it was done to us. One, that clarity happens, there is no grudges to be held in spite of the harm done to you.
Actually, that's what I was pointing out. The analysis of situation helps. But for physician, most of the time, it's the experience that helps us. How many patients in the past I've seen with a similar behavior, and how can I do it this time better if I did some failures or I could have treated them differently? I'm going to do better this time to treat this patient. So I guess that's what I was saying, to at least gain through your experiences and keep on getting better.
The memories of the past
Well, but you
become
can't
present.
remember each and everything in the present moment. You still have to recall 100 patients or 50 patients or 10 patients, and you probably never did the same thing for each patient exactly same. So you see,
Although you call it past, but I call it present because
okay,
it
that's
is
fair
present
enough.
in your memory now.
That's fair enough. And that's what I was saying, that gaining experiences, if you put it in your present memory, that's what I was pointing out. And it, by the way, it does happen a lot of time. They may not throw things at you, but they start yelling at you without even realizing what they were saying or doing it.
Yeah.
Ray, you had something, some question. Go ahead.
Well, it's just that it seemed to me that in that present mode, we're there to add value, right? We're add the highest value. And in your case, as a physician, part of adding value is to dwell on everything you've learned that can help you in this moment to add value to this new patient. So,
Absolutely.
that's not a judgmental situation. It's not in any way an egotistical, you know, observance. It is purely the truths of what you've learned in the past, the facts, and how you can use that now to add value in the moment. So I think, in our there's a reason why God gave us a brain. He gave us a brain to be able to, make good decisions in the moment and to store good memories and good learning moments. And then you're able to draw on those if you live in the moment. So I think, it's not contradictory to living in
No,
the moment because that's what helps you do the best thing in the moment.
yeah, no, it's not contradictory at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my expression may have been different than what his is. That's all it was. But I totally agree what he was pointing out. I think because a shorter time he could not expand. I thought I'll expand it now more. The
Thank you.
way we think it all the time with the patient. Go ahead, sir.
It added value. Thank you, Dr. Ken. Go ahead. You've been
There was a
patiently.
hand raising. What is it?
Yes.
Oneness Wealth. I don't know your name, sir.
I just need a
On.
small clarification from Ratanjit ji. The thought process on sacrifice and forgiveness somehow look mirror images to me, because you don't own anything, so you don't sacrifice anything. Even forgiveness, your experiences are not your own experiences, because you are a witness, catalyst, or a conduit. So, in that sense, when you don't own that experience, how can you forgive somebody?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In oneness, forgiveness doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, sacrifice and forgiveness are mirror images.
Yes. Sacrifice doesn't exist in oneness. How can you sacrifice when you don't own anything?
Yeah.
Ownership exists in human body mode. It's mine. I gave it to you. I've given to charity. This is all ego. Is so we are in a family. We don't give to each other. They take, right? You open the fridge and take whatever food you want because it's all of the family. But we limit our family to few people. The whole world is a family.
Mhm.
Interesting though, because you say sacrifice doesn't exist, but in some ways, isn't sacrifice the essence of losing
Yeah.
yourself? I mean, if you're always thinking of adding value to others, then you're sacrificing losing value to yourself, and that's perfectly okay.
No,
But I
no,
mean, isn't
you're not sacrificing. You're
Value.
adding value to the divine force which is
right?
present in others as well as you.
Correct.
You are also
One
serving
added to
yourself.
100.
You are also serving yourself. You are only service.
So you stop thinking totally of yourself as a separate entity.
Right.
Okay.
The moment you are doing anything, it is ego. Anything done through you, you see the divine power doing that.
Okay.
So you do not take the claim of anything. In reality, you become only a witness, part in gratefulness.
Hmm. Go ahead, An.
Ratanjit ji, because you touched a very beautiful topic again, I am forced to ask you one more question. As you said just now that our only job is to add value, and so if at any moment you realize that whatever value got added was by the divine through you, you were being a conduit, witness, or a catalyst at that point of time. On that realization that okay, something good happened, or the things did happen and you added value, is there any way one can celebrate it?
Celebration is experienced by, if it is experienced by your ego, is there is another celebration which is in the name of adding value, making others feel great is celebration. That is adding value, but that is not part in ego. So you remain in the celebration also in the service mode.
Hmm.
I mean, if you're successful with continuously adding value, you're living in celebration, aren't you? I mean, it's a fulfillment of your purpose. So
The
you don't even
celebration indirectly means you are part in the pleasure, you are enjoying, you are
yeah.
celebrating. Your celebration comes from another element, feeling grateful.
Right.
When you feel grateful, your body operates in the maximum capacity. Your serotonins and all these elements which hormones which make you happy are more released by your human brain. So it's in the gratefulness you have the full capacity of this machine human body available to you. In no other mode it is available to you fully.
Anyone else that we haven't heard from, maybe? Or who has another thought?
I guess I'm just grateful and humbled to get this male energy loving perspective. I I don't know that I've ever been on a call where I was the only girl.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
kind of taking it all in. I would say, because I do believe in balance, and I would say that forgiveness, I was thinking about it, like you guys said, there's so much that has been said and so many routes and roads that we could go on this. It's almost like it needs to be broken down in sections because, like life, everything is a journey and we get to the places we get to through and from our experiences. So it's hard to deny the past, but certainly you shouldn't live in it because it will consume you. It's hard to acknowledge the future because you don't know it, it will confuse you. So all you really do have is the moment. So I agree. It's a present and a gift to be in the moment because I think only in the moment can you breathe and make the right decision. It's only from this moment. Everything else would be a wrong decision because it's either going to be based on emotions or it's going to be based on what you think it should be. But if you breathe and you take in the moment, you'll always come up with the right answer. There were so many things that you guys covered that was just so beautiful. I really just was enjoying more so listening. But there was one part that we didn't go all the way into, and someone mentioned, and I was thinking that is the self forgiveness. That's so essential. And I think that if I remember about 15 years ago before I wrote my book, and I think I put this little adage in the book, but it kind of clicked in my head, and it said, "I am now free to the understanding that I am not free of the human experience. Therefore, I love, I heal, I bless, forgive, and have compassion towards myself." And I think when we evolve to the point where we can really develop those things, those fundamental things in ourselves, especially the forgiveness, then it becomes easy because, like Ratanjit teaches and says all the time, when we're in oneness, we really, that is what it does. It allows us to give to someone else what we're willing to give to ourselves. So maybe the issue is that others, the self forgiveness is not present enough that it creates a convoluted understanding of what forgiveness is and what forgiveness does.
So I'll leave you with this thought. You ponder over it. You cannot forgive yourself because you do not exist.
Ratanjit,
Only ego, only
I'm
ego
sorry.
exists.
Since that is such a problem for so many people, though, I think we can dedicate next week's show to that topic if you're up to that. Forgiving ourselves. And
It's basically repeating ourselves. So let's
think
take
so.
a new topic.
All right, we'll change the topic. You're the boss. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else have a thought?
Anybody has a topic for us to cover next week?
Narcissism. I've been
Huh?
counting
Narcissist.
narcissistic people. If they could forgive, maybe there'd be no narcissism. That might be the key to it.
If you have a thought
You have a
anytime,
topic
please
on?
Yeah,
always send us a thought. Go
no,
ahead.
we generally discuss topics where we talk about stress and there is something wrong, something where we may not be in the right direction or there's ego getting played out. But we never discuss which is joyful and celebration. I would like to hear your thoughts on joyfulness and celebration?
Ray?
That's
How is the
good.
right way how is the
Yes.
right way in the human body mode to be joyful and celebrate life?
Right way to celebrate and be joyful.